If you guys weren't working in games, what would you be doing?
uh, I'd probably be like a laborer. I think I actually did when I was in school. When I was in high school, they had this program for students where you could like work at city yards, and they taught me welding, and they taught me like patching roads, and they taught me like all these like actually really useful skills that I found like really rewarding. And it was because I was like building stuff with my hands. You know, like at the end of the day, it's like I did that thing, and look at that thing I did. And game design is like super rewarding, but it's like a different kind of rewarding. Where at the end of the day, I don't have a thing that I can hold in my hand and be like, check out this thing I did. And I really do like that. Actually, I was just telling Rocco that I'm doing some home renovation right now, and that's very much like scratching that itch of just like, check out this thing I made. Like, look at it. Everyone, come see. Kids, come look at this room that I'm working on. Yeah, I actually really enjoy that. So yeah,
Awesome.
it would probably be
Awesome.
doing something like that, something with my hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it would have been music. Or the other case would have been like architecture design. That was the other aspect I like to do. So it's really the aesthetics, that it's spatial compositions of that. It's, you know, the environment, the space, the form and function, the stuff. It's like multi kind of thing going on. But other than that, it's either like music, architecture, or interaction design, something within the lines. As long as it's creative domain, yeah.
Yeah, and music plays a really heavy part in your game. You can see how that influences what you're doing,
Yeah.
right? We're in the game industry. What's your favorite part? What do you like? For me, I know it sounds silly, but like I like the camaraderie during
Sure.
production.
Yeah.
Especially when something's just about to go out, and then something always happens to crash, or you lose a file, and then the team comes together. They rally
Yeah.
to get it out because you want to eat the next day. What's that thing for yourself?
That's a really good one. That's a super good one. The projects we end up doing at the office range between 2 weeks for smaller ones, and then like on the larger end, like stuff that we do for like Auto Show and CES and stuff like that. We'll work on projects like that for about 2 months. And like for context, we made like a VR racing simulator for Acura for the Auto Show last year.
Very cool.
And we did that in I think about 2 months. And it was me and one other guy. More often than not, it's enough time actually. We work like really efficient, I guess, for lack of a better word. But there are times, you know, where we do wind up in those cleanse positions, and that ended up happening last year. And it was me and 4 other guys. A client was coming the next day to check out this finished thing that wasn't actually finished yet. So we were up all night working together, and we like playing music, and we actually like worked through the night like into the next morning. And then I had to like just go wash my face off a bit, and then like wash the tired off, and like hello, and like yeah, welcome to the office. Let me show you around, and then just like collapse afterwards.
Yeah.
That's definitely. I actually, despite the fact that sounds like a nightmare, I actually kind of do enjoy
Yeah.
like the camaraderie and
Yeah,
like the,
yeah.
everyone kind of like, you know, listening to music and kind of just sitting down and getting through it. That is a very big thing that I enjoy about the industry. I guess the other thing too is, and it's specific. Well, it's not specific to me and my industry specifically, but it is like something that is like, it's more of a thing, I guess, for what I do. Because it is so tight timelines for like very specific projects for very specific shows. We control the hardware, we control the software, and we can kind of just go bananas, you know. For another part that I really enjoy is actually just that I'm never bored. That technology keeps changing, mechanics keep changing, you know, hardware keeps changing. What you can do with a game engine keeps changing, and there's never a moment where I come into the office and don't feel like there's like 20 things that I want to learn, and it'll probably be that way until I retire. So I really enjoy that. That's another thing I'm really, really into about being a game designer.
I really do like to acknowledge what he was mentioning about one can never be bored, because there's always something interesting that could happen within the aspect of the changes with either the tools, the pipeline, or even the effects that when we create these creations, how it could affect not only as, you know, for like the given individuals or users, but even the community in general, or even how the real world even interacts, and take that to a whole new meaning. And then there's also this interesting feedback that it's going that, you know, it's becoming like multifaceted definition for giving for the games, just like how they express for art when they're trying to define to say what is of art, and then to say that video games could be of art or even beyond that. And then you start to see a lot of different things on the reaction, and that's, I think, that's the most compelling thing too in this field, that it's could be so many things that could be done. Yeah.
I think the last thing is for those who want to get into the field. Do you have any bits of advice or anything where they can start or what they could do?
I guess my biggest piece of advice, based on my own career trajectory anyway, is don't put yourself in a box. Don't say that this is what I do and this is what I can do and this is what I'm capable of and this is all I'll ever be capable of. I started off as a programmer. I ended up going through school for programming, dropped out, decided I didn't like it, went back to school for game design, and I decided, well, if I don't like programming, I'll be an artist because I'm really good at art too. I think I'm pretty good at art.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I didn't know you as a programmer. I knew you as an artist.
Yeah,
first.
and I still am. Like day to day, like I'm still in charge of the overall like look and feel and art pass at the office. But also, what ended up happening for me anyway was that I had an interest in programming. I was trying to teach it myself on the side just because I wanted to be able to make stuff by myself, you know. I didn't want to have to rely on programmers who, at the time at GANS, a lot of them were like would show interest in something and on doing something on the side with me and like, you know, making something, but then just kind of flake out. And it's like, well, you know what, I'm just going to learn programming on my own then and just do it myself. But at my next job, they actually asked if I could like do stuff by myself, and I was like, I can't. You know, I'm not a programmer, but if you give me the opportunity, I'll definitely learn. And for me, that ended up turning into, you know, a partial career path where it's like I'm equal parts developer and artist and like creative guy, and like I do all these things now. Art's still a very big part of it. Yeah. But for me, I get to do a lot of different things, and it was all just because every single time I was presented with an opportunity, you say yes. You say yes, and even if it's like it's scary sometimes, and you're not necessarily going to be great at it all the time, and as long as you're honest and open and show the interest and care enough to do a good job, like it opens doors and it makes it easier for you to do more stuff in the future. Yeah, based on my own experience anyway.
Yeah. That saying yes thing is crazy important.
Yeah.
One of the things that just made me think, always knowing you as a modeler.
Yeah.
I was a producer at one studio, and we were just sitting around having a meal together, the staff, and we were just, you know, the restaurants that have the big, they don't use a tablecloth, they use the paper, and they have the crayons and something. So we're just having fun, we're having drinks.
You write your name upside down.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
So we're doing drawings, and someone's like, oh my goodness, do you know how to draw? You should do a little bit. I'm like, maybe, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
Right. Because all they deal with, no, seriously, you just deal with spreadsheets with certain positions.
Yeah.
And you don't realize that the more hats you wear, the more valuable you are, the more likely you can stick with the team longer, or the more teams you end up running with.
Yeah.
So that always say yes to not only an employer or to yourself really pays off.
It's also really critically important in smaller studios. Like if you go to like an Ubisoft or something like that, where you're in a production pipeline where it's like your one job is to model this thing and send it down the line to, you know, a texture artist or something, then so be it. Mm-hmm. But at a smaller studio, there just isn't the bandwidth for something like that. You need to be able to model, unwrap, texture, implement, animate, you know, any particle effects associated with whatever it is you're doing. Like you need to be able to like do that stuff and be willing to do it.
Get the coffees.
Yeah, get the coffees sometimes, for sure. Yeah. Be the cheerleader and give everyone high fives when everyone's tired, you know? Like, whatever it is, you got to be able to do that stuff.
I like to also add into that. It also doesn't hurt to know, within the additional roles, too, so it'll really help for, like, you know, the debugging, the quality assurance, and all this stuff, just so everybody could go on to the same page so they can understand really intimately of, like, you know, the restraints of either like the engine or the technical side of it. So then together they could really come up with the solutions, or even unconventional solutions, but just work. And then that's all that's needed to be done. And that's actually the most interesting thing, that sometimes, you know, even if it's unorthodox kind of solutions, but at least it gets the job done. And that's all that really matters in the bottom line. So even for like optimization stuff. Yeah. What I would try to say is that, I would try to recommend just to give a chance. Don't be afraid to think that there has to be a really specific pipeline just to get this stuff. If you feel like you wanted just to try it out, give it a shot. If you want to like either to experiment or try like a different engine, and after when you feel comfortable, you could move on to the next engine. Then you could do it. And there's always like, aspects where you could have transferable skills, even if some engine could be deprecated. There's even the sort of like interesting life lesson you could learn, that even something like Blender 3D game engine, it may seem like it's a little bit off balance compared to something like the AAA engines like Unreal 4 or Unity or Lumberyard or etc. But there's actually interesting life lesson to learn about all the other aspects about optimization, learn how to do things really efficiently. And then once you're able to get those sort of skills, then you're able to learn to appreciate that you can even make much more efficient games to the other engines, rather than to take things for granted, where people tries to understand it's like, okay, a really huge engine. I mean, like a AAA engine, but still things are really lacking, or there's like, it's not rendering, or like a low frame rate drop, and then they try to understand why and all these other things. So by learning even from understanding like the legacy aspect, and then to move on. And of course, there's also the timing too for how that goes for like the given purpose and the aesthetic. So, of course, difference between that for photorealistic, AAA PBR, it's a much different story than something like stylistic NPR kind of thing. So it's a good life lesson. So
Yeah.
Well, it's just that I've seen lately a lot of studios who are kind of gambling with games. Like they're releasing one game by every week. And it's basically the clickers or something very, very simple. And they just release it, and then they think of like what's going to be the next casual game? What's going to be?
Yeah.
In your opinion, is this kind of like selling short the profession of creating a game designer, or is this kind of a challenge actually to always try to keep something fresh, even though we all know it's not fresh? It's kind of like beefier food or whatever.
I recently worked with a developer where that was the conversation was. We're going to provide you with a mechanic, and you're going to window dress it, and we're going to do that every week. No, that's what it was. And I think we did 2 drafts of something, and if you need to make that money however you can, right? Because never say no, say yes. One of the things that I was able to do was to try out a few new styles during that job. And you know what? I broadened my visualizer. I broadened my tactical skills. Was it the most amazing game design skills? No. But I got to take a little something away. Plus I got paid. When it comes to that in a larger sense, we don't have Sonic the Hedgehog without Mario. We don't have Fortnite without PUBG, right? When people have that project or given that challenge, and someone who I'm not saying morally bankrupt, but when someone wants to challenge themselves, that's the word I'll use. When someone wants to challenge themselves, they can make something really interesting and really new. And we see that with really interesting developers. One I like to talk about is Edmund Mundy, Team Meat, Super Meat Boy. He took platforming, the general idea for platforming, and he made it fast, and he made it frenetic, and he made it when you lose, you don't care. Your next loss is another step. And we got Super Meat Boy from that. After that, he didn't stop. He took dungeon crawling, Legend of Zelda, top-down perspective, and he made Binding of Isaac. His next project, which I think is called Mugenics, seems to be a Pokemon riff, and I can't wait to see what his attempt on that is. So as long as you're challenging yourself, you can take something that might be seen as a blatant copy, but you can do something bigger and better. Once again, Fortnite was built off. We originally had Save the World camp? Was its original campaign.
Yes, what it was actually supposed to be before it became what it is.
And then it pivoted. Yeah. But nowadays, yes, sure, it's still that 100-man thing. But did you guys did anyone do that? See the Mecha event where the Kaiju came by?
Yeah.
So if you guys haven't seen it, during Fortnite, they were slowly, the last season, they were slowly building up a robot, and that there was this evil presence coming on. And through an entire season, you're like, oh, this is kind of interesting. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, a giant monster emerged, and then a giant robot fought that monster while people were supposed to be playing. And it was insane. Yeah, this guy knows what I'm talking about. He was like, yeah, I was there. You were in that event, right?
Wow.
And we don't get that without, people challenging themselves on what might be seen as a copy. And clearly it's not a copy anymore. Did you go to the concerts a little while? No? We're having in-game concerts. People are getting together online, right? And that's where the creativity stands. We have to challenge ourselves as designers and rise above the pay. It's really hard for me to say that.
It's about finding the golden lining.
Yeah.
Like you said, actually, I had a recent project that's just wrapping up right now, and it was one of those ones where it's like, the stuff that we do is all very client focused. So it's like a client comes to us and goes like, we want this, and we're like, all right, well, how about we do this for you? And they go, no, we want this dumb thing instead. I'm like, okay, it's a bad idea, but you're paying us. So But then within that framework, like so, for instance, with this last thing that we did, we ended up we got an opportunity to use this new hardware that we hadn't used before, and I'm still not like super psyched about the thing that we made at the end of the day because I don't think it was like fundamentally a good idea. But there was opportunities to learn within there, you know, and like we have like this expanded capability and like these hardware tools that we didn't get to use before that we used as like a test bed. Basically, we used that project for it. The other thing too about you know, like these clones and like these games that keep coming out over and over and over again. In my experience anyway, that always ends up being a pretty self-correcting thing. Like, you know, someone catches on like, you know, like a PUBG style game and everyone's just making like, you know, the 100-man battle royale game or whatever. The market can only sustain so many of those, and then everyone kind of loses interest and moves on to the next thing where the cycle begins anew. And maybe that cycle sucks, but yeah, it is kind of self-correcting, I feel like, ultimately.
Yeah. You got a game that's been playing at the Play to Practice as well as a bunch of Hand-Eye Society stuff. You want to talk a little bit about it?
So the game is called Data Runner. So it was like it's an endless tunneler, but it was inspired based on a number of sci-fi tropes, and one of them was like a hadron collider, but it was like a particle accelerator kind of thing going on, and then there was like the mix between the aesthetics from that, and instead of just to take the twist where it's like a tunnel runner and they're trying to add like much more. There's supposed to be like some action-oriented stuff, but for now it's like a still work in progress, and we'll see how that will go from there.
I mean, the stuff I make is always like, you know, like come to the auto show and find the cool VR thing. Chances are good I made it, but I don't really have a product that I get to like go out there and like hawk to people.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'll say boil3d.com.
That is true.
There
yes,
we go.
if you want freelance 3D stuff, I guess, or you want to talk about art at some point, hit me out. Sure.
Last time we saw each other was at the TO Jam, and it's so funny because you're doing a bunch of car stuff. You guys did a window washer simulator. He did a physical window wash, and there's a squeegee. Was there a bucket involved too?
Yeah, there was a bucket.
Yeah,
we had the Vive trackers, so we were testing them out, and we just wanted like because we got them in at the office, and we just kind of like yoink, we're taking these for the weekend. And yeah, we like strapped them to the top of a squeegee, and we made like this. It's not just a window washing simulator; it's a window washing simulator murder mystery game. Is what we made.
Oh, I didn't.
So you would play the game for I think like 3 days, and it was like a Paperboy style game where you'd go up the different levels and wipe everyone's windows off. And at the end of the day, it would show how satisfied each customer was with the job you did. And then at the end of the 3rd day, I think it was. I think that we made you play two to 3 full days worth of this game to think like this is what this game is. Weird, but okay. And then at the very end of the 3rd day, you get to the top floor of the apartment, and there was just a dead body there. And it would just like you just kind of lingered there for a second, and then this like shredding guitar started playing because that happens at the end of every day. The shredding guitar plays or whatever. So you just sit there staring at like a body for like 5 sets, like uncomfortably long anyway, and then it like guitar thrashing, and then like here's how satisfied everyone is. But then at that point, it's like a murder mystery where you're trying to figure out like based on the clues from everyone's apartment who it was that killed the guy in the top apartment. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool.
Made in 2 days. It was okay.
Yeah. I'm with Trios College. Currently, we have the new VGA curriculum it's rolling out in September. So if you want to talk about video games or learn about making art in video games or learn about programming in video games, Trios is where you do that. All of our instructors are working in the field, and we bring our history as well as our connections to the course and internships for all. Which I know is like, I got out of school and like, get out of here. But no, not here.
Exactly.
we help you get there and get your foot in the door with all the hardware and software necessary. Additionally, tipchair.com, makers of Served. Our next game, I believe it's called Tarantella, is coming out within the year. Big thanks to the Hand-Eye Society. Could not do this without the Hand-Eye Society. This huge backers of this. Of course, Microsoft, thank you so much for being super hospitable. You let us do this all the time, so this has been fantastic. Additionally, I'm going to give big props to George Kate. Okay, on Sights and Sounds. So he did fantastic. Much thank you. Yeah, and to you, the audience. So this has been Play to Practice, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, everyone.